Good afternoon. Welcome to the Awakening Entrepreneurial Spirits program on small business. Today, we present Program 2 of a 6-part series which revolves around the subjects of formal and informal education. The project, Awakening Entrepreneurial Spirit, the Key to Job Creation, emanated from the Pasadena Economic Development Committee in Newfoundland. They realized that an effort had to be made to create an awareness of small business region, to give people a basic understanding of small business, and to help people realize that through local investing, a sound community-based economy can be established. After funding was approved through the Innovations Program of the Canadian Job Strategy, it was decided that local residents, business people, and resources would be utilized in order to create a dynamic impact on residents of the area. 26 individuals were interviewed and their businesses profiled in a series of videos illustrating the concept of why to as opposed to how to enter the business world. After the videos were completed, it was decided that the best way to present them to the 22 communities of the Humber Valley Bay of Islands area would be by way of satellite. Consequently, on January 24th, a live 11-hour television broadcast aired from the Venture Center in Pasadena. Approximately 1 hour into the broadcast, participants realized that they were reaching not only the Humber Valley Bay of Island region and other parts of Newfoundland, but areas in Canada and the United States as well. Viewers of the broadcast saw a wide range of programming that included the core video series, live panel discussions, community profiles, school concerts, and live entertainment. Audience participation was encouraged with the provision of a toll-free telephone number and accommodations in the studio for anyone wishing to see the event firsthand. A survey was conducted during and immediately following the broadcast to ascertain the scope of penetration and the depth of the viewing audience. 1,133 households were polled during the 11 hours and 200 shortly after. Surveyors discovered that 50% of those able to watch the broadcast did so. A breakdown on a regional basis indicated that outside the city of Corner Brook, this audience reached as high as 95%. A newspaper editorial that appeared after the broadcast deemed the event successful in breaking the ice to unveiling the economic potential of the Humber Valley Bay of Islands and in revealing yet another innovative economic strategy that involved people as participants for self-help.
When you say entrepreneur, the image that comes to mind is that of a middle-aged person, right? Today's business person can be any age. The kids with the lemonade stands or the paper routes, they're all entrepreneurs.
The Royal Commission advocates that education be seen as an investment both for the individual and for society. It should be considered as not simply a matter of preparing people for a particular style of working and living, or training them to fit a specific niche within an industrial system, but rather as a way of improving the quality of the human resources of our society. It is a matter not only of training people to fill the jobs available, but also to be able to create jobs for themselves, improve their performance in the jobs they already hold, and contribute more to the social and economic fabric of their communities.
Hello, I'm Bill Party, Economic Development Officer with the town of Pasadena in Newfoundland. And the topic of our program today is dealing with education, and not in the true sense, I guess, of academic education. What we're talking about is entrepreneurship in this series and the kind of education that an entrepreneur needs to get a business up and running and to carry it through. And it deals more with, I guess, academic type learning. It deals with lifestyle and learning through life experiences and what have you. And with us to talk about this topic today and to discuss it, we have Mr. Harold Lundgren, who is President of Lundgren Canada Limited. We have Nelson Bennett, the Chairman of the Economic Development Committee for the town of Pasadena, as well as a former educator for many, many years, and Dave Tizard, who's the Regional Manager of the Newfoundland and Labrador Development Corporation in Cornerbrook, Newfoundland, and as well a former business person in his own right. And we'll open off, I guess, by talking to Dave and asking him to tell us about how important, I guess, life learning is, because Dave at one point in time worked for a large banking corporation and then went into business on his own. And I'd like for him probably to talk a little bit about the experiences and the knowledge that he gleaned while working for a large corporation, and how it assisted when he decided to take the plunge and get into business.
You know, I'm start off by saying, well, I came from a poor family. I went in the bank, as you say, but I worked with the large bank, Canadian bank, for 21 years. Came out of high school, went in. It was a sort of a way of doing it then. Anyone born in the Depression and my generation type of thing, this was a great stepping stone in the middle class. But I went into the bank, and probably the first bit of savvy I learned about the business world was I was at the Bank of Nova Scotia trying to get a job, and someone said to me, they agreed to hire me. And then the other fellow met me on the way out and said, look, the Bank of Montreal is paying $120 a month, and the Bank of Nova Scotia are paying $90. So that was the first bit of business savvy I got, that there was something better out there sometime and strive for it. And then I went down and I went up to the Bank of Montreal and spent 21 years there with the bank. But it was an excellent window for me to see what was happening, because I saw all the businesses around me, both large and small, individuals and corporations and so on, saw what was happening. You sort of got a great chance to look back and see it and experience it. I think probably it's not good in one way. The view was sort of narrow in the sense you see it from one set of eyes, from the banking eyes. You don't see it from across the counter. And then later on, when I left the bank, after the 21 years, went in business myself, the opportunity came up and we went in, and then I spent 19 years or 18 years on the street. I saw then financing from another point of view. But all these things added to my experience and seeing it from both sides of the desk type of a thing. And I think probably the greatest lesson on that is that you can't always be successful. That doesn't mean you won't be successful the second time type of thing sometimes. I've witnessed that in my life, seeing that happen. And as well, you know, you gain so much from little failures, and it accumulates in your mind, and eventually that you become tough enough and you're smart enough that you pick up all this information.
So it's certainly important from a business perspective. I guess this hands-on experience certainly was an added advantage.
That's certainly one facet of it, right?
Sure. Nelson, you were into the education field for many years, and how do you see the interrelationship with I guess academic learning, the approaches taken, and entrepreneurship development in education, as the world unfolds? Probably a little bit different than it was 10 or 15 years back.
Well, when I was in the education business myself, I was concerned, of course, that there was very little emphasis placed on business, and of course, most people who come out of university are more socialist inclined, and they are probably to the right in the political spectrum. And another thing, looking back, I have a different perspective now, of course, than before, realizing that it's essential that we try to get something in the educational system in a formal way to get a better appreciation of business. And in the meantime, I thought, of course, this was peculiar to Newfoundland. I was quite surprised to read just recently of a person in the United States who was very well recognized in the investment business, considering that the American education system also lacks this training and appreciation for business. So it's certainly not peculiar to Newfoundland or Canada. And but having said that, there's another interesting aspect to education and business, in the sense that for myself, I worked with a business organization a few years ago, and of all the people that I interviewed, I only remember two people who were university trained, and generally they were people who were people probably pre-high school. And I wonder why. I think it might be a case of probably people who get more formal education becoming intimidated with business, and whereas the people probably with a lesser view of the world are not afraid of business. I don't know. That's my own views.
A little bit of knowledge is probably sometimes not as beneficial as a lot of knowledge or no knowledge. Mr. Fleming, as head of probably one of the largest corporations, I don't know, one of the largest corporations in Atlantic Canada, and certainly one of the largest companies in the whole of the country. The value your company must place on education. I want to deal with two aspects, I guess, but first and foremost, the value you place on life education and upgrading for the employees that you have and the people that you have working for you. Because I imagine in a changing environment like we've got now and moving so much towards an information era, the challenge for a company like yours to re-educate and assist in education and redirect the employees you got must be quite a tremendous task. And I'd like your comments, I guess, on the value of after academic learning, I guess.
Well, the education in an entrepreneurship sense, small little company, is not as important except for the factors of putting together a business plan and knowing where you're going and so on. You have to have a certain amount of education for that. But the entrepreneurship drive is not necessarily education, because there are a lot of very highly educated people who couldn't run a business and won't run a business. In fact, they say that engineers are non-risk takers. Some people think it's because they've learned so much. And when you know too much, sometimes it's dangerous too. But I think that's one aspect. So education is not a factor in, when academic education is not a factor. Learning how to do it is very important, because you can't afford to make the mistakes and learn it when you're just starting up a business, because the mistake you made may cause you to fail. And I back up what Dave was saying earlier, that failure is probably one of the best experiences in a negative sort of way, that you won't do that anymore. Now, if you could make a mistake and go down a bit, that's great, but if you go way down the trough and lose your business, a lot of people get up, shake themselves off, and say, I'll never do that again, and become extremely good business people. My father, who was the founder of the company, he lost his business at one time during the Depression, and all his life he instilled into us, watch that, and we did. And we now got another generation he formed this, I suppose, 65 years ago. So these failure experiences, which are what you're talking about, the life learning experiences, are very important to the small person starting a business. Now, an established business gets to be much more sophisticated, and there you have to have a lot of people who have a good education. You need chartered accountants because you're dealing with chartered accountants. You need graduate engineers because you're working with engineers. You need surveyors because you're depending on surveyors. And in bigger corporations, you need psychologists because you got to get good productivity out of your employees. All these things get to be much more sophisticated. But I think back to where you're coming from with talking to the small business person, the life learning skills are extremely important. You need academic education as well to a certain degree.
One of the things that I guess from my perspective that's very important as well, I think companies in their own right recognize that learning and education is a continual task. And we hear talk of lifelong learning now as a thrust, rather than you went to school and you got your high school education, you went on and took a trade or whatever, and you were in that field for life. What we're seeing more and more now is diversification and people changing fields very, very frequently. But from the perspective of a company, we have an opportunity, I think, of one in our lifetime in Newfoundland with Hibernia. I know, Mr. Lunning, your company got heavily involved in the lead up to this in anticipation of getting a piece of the action. And I think the company took on the task, and I guess what I want to put in an analogy there, that education is not only important to an individual, someone starting a small business, it's important from the big company perspective as well, that they have to educate their employees, the people involved, and learn about a project such as Hibernia and the whole field of offshore oil in order to ensure that at least you get a fair crack at accessing a piece of the action.
Yeah, well, our company has been made up that way since its inception. For example, the first pre-stressed concrete bridges that were brought to Atlantic Canada were brought there by our company, having gone to the States and France learned how to do it, and brought it home. In fact, even in Halifax, the first bridges and the road from Halifax to the airport are pre-stressed concrete bridges. These were built by our people having gone away and learned. And these weren't academically necessary. There were some good engineers there, but a lot of the tradesmen were not high academic qualifications, but they went away and learned. And we always felt that. Our program in the company today, any person coming in can get a chartered accountant's or an accounting degree by studying, and the company will reimburse that person, because we think learning as you go is important to the development of the person as well as the company. The company only goes as far as the people go. Insofar as Hibernia is concerned, it probably started off as an item of pride, where we felt if that's going to be built in Newfoundland, we must have a piece of it if we could. And we sent, well, I went away first myself, and I saw so much. Someone else went away, and then I suppose there must be 20 or so people of the company have gone to places in the world where this is being done to learn various aspects of it. And we just see it and meet people who do it and want to become part of it, and as a consequence, it's a kind of absorbing of knowledge. And you bring it home and give it out to your colleagues.
Again, I guess this is the whole point we're trying to make with this program, that education is not strictly classroom format. It is an absorbing of knowledge, sharing, and I guess bringing in new skills so that you can take on and do other tasks. And again, from the perspective of entrepreneurship, what the programs are all about, the need to, once you get an idea, learn as much as you can about the idea, so then you have the tools, at least the basic tools, to put together an action plan to carry it through to a business opportunity and business development. We talked about company involvement, we talked about the academic side of it, and later on in the program we're going to talk to a couple of students who have had an opportunity to get an academic education, some experience in the work field, and get their views as well. What I'd like now is, as a wrap-up, I guess, is just some closing remarks on the importance of, number one, academic education. I think is very, very important. Number two, the need to search for information relative to ideas or opportunities, and as well, I guess, the need to search for the ideas to begin with, so then you can research the information you need to carry the idea forward. You, Mr. Dillon, you want to sort of wind up with some comments with regard to that?
Well, I think as a general fact, it will be agreed by all, that any company, small or large, that attempts to stay the same will go backwards. So either you grow, some people try to grow, other people try to become more efficient, and everyone has to learn more. And even the smallest little business, I think that person who runs that business must try to learn a new idea, a new product, how to do the same product faster or better or more efficiently, how to expand the market. And there is a constant learning process, which sometimes is done in the academic environment, in the classroom, and there are constantly advertised seminars on economics, cost reduction, labor management relations, all these sorts of subjects. And I think any person getting into business, whether it's big or large, has to be constantly in a learning process.
Mr. Bennett, with your background as an educator, your views on, because as I said, the world is unfolding quite differently, and there's a need for a blend, certainly a mix of academic and practical experience as well.
Probably rather than comment on that, the discussion here suggested something to me that I think we should mention, and that is the importance of travel, which of course is always an important factor in education, whatever form it is, general education or specific. And I don't think there's any greater way to enrich one's business opportunities than to travel and see how, see the techniques and so on used elsewhere, and see the opportunities that are found elsewhere.
Dave, you've worked for a large corporation. You've been in your own business, and now you're working for a government development corporation. Your views, you've changed modes, I guess, several times, and your background in education each time certainly brought something to the position that you took. And I'm sure your background with the large corporation, your involvement in private business certainly has been a tremendous asset to you in putting together the regional office in Cormac and making it function in the manner that you've managed to do?
In private business, particularly smaller business, there's a great flexibility. And as you get larger, you don't have that flexibility. That's one of the inhibiting factors. Big companies now try to change it around by having action groups and executive committees that do this very, very well. But one of the things I think that should be said, and Harold mentioned, and you picked it up, Nelson, is that no matter how sophisticated one becomes and all the courses you can take, we must do this. We must keep abreast. We can't stay the same. As Harold says, you're moving backwards then. Old values don't change. You've still got to have the virtue of being a good worker, honesty, neatness, and all these things are very old-fashioned, out of place in a very modern electronic world. But they're still the basis of all business. All corporations function on the people they have. And if people are honest and they give a good day's work, and the greatest lesson I ever got in the bank one time, a fellow said to me when I first joined, he said, always watch the other guy, see what he's doing. Never mind your own job. You can get that in a few days. Watch the next guy. You know, in other words, what you said to him, well, keep looking, keep expanding your mind. That's the secret. But old-fashioned values still hang in, and I think probably even large corporations, the greatest asset.
I think we've covered off a full range of discussion on education, both formal and practical today, and give you some insight into not only that learning is a lifelong process, that there are opportunities through travel, through seminars, through different programs that are out there to beef up your education, expand your mind. And I think Mr. Lundigan summed it up by saying that a company that doesn't grow and expand and try new things certainly stagnates. We had a gentleman in from Ontario back in 1984, and we did a workshop on high technology in Pasadena. And he suggested from their perspective that in the world today, unfolding as rapidly as it does, that if you run as hard as you can, you barely keep up. And I think that's very, very important today. And it's not only important for companies, I think it's important for individuals as well. We must continue to expand to improve our knowledge base and learn new things. And I think we got that message loud and clear today. For you as potential entrepreneurs, we said it in other programs and we'll say it again today, there are opportunities out there. You need to find out what the opportunities are, the ideas, and then glean as much knowledge as you can in order to make it into a business venture. Thank you.
People open businesses for many reasons. They may have entered an established family business, stepped into an existing enterprise, or started from scratch. Let's listen to two local business people to see why and how they did it.
Okay, Mrs. Constantini, tell me about your business and how you got started.
Empty nest syndrome. Kids were pretty well all gone, and I didn't want to, or I couldn't find a job after working for the government for about 8 years. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I enjoyed sewing, I enjoyed crafts, so I started making things for a local store, and like Topsy, it just grew. Just kept going with no real plan in mind. I guess right now I'm at the planning stage, but it's taken me 7 years to realise I should work with a plan. However, I've survived. And
so how did you started off making these things in your own home and people got the idea that they wanted what you had? Or?
Yes.
And then you went on to build your business bigger?
Yeah, well, people came to me, other stores came to me and asked if I produce, and from then on we've done more wholesale than retail.
How many people do you have working with you?
Right now, 5 pretty well full-time and up to 20 outside sewers.
Tell me a bit about the things that you make, the things that you have here.
Well, for the most part, we try and use polycottons because of their wearability and their practicability as far as washing is concerned. The fabrics come, for the most part, from Montreal and are quilted to our specifications, which means a heavier fill, therefore they're better looking and better wearing. And also, having them quilted for ourselves, it means that we can choose what combination of colours we want. We can do complete rooms, whether it's a kitchen or a dining room, or we're even doing complete bedrooms now with curtains, bedspreads, and pillow shams and so on. For the kitchen, we can do appliance covers, aprons, tablecloths, fitted tablecloths, lampshades, oven mitts, appliance covers, in fact anything that people want. The only thing we have from outside is a few napkin rings from India, but they're complementary to the rest of the line. For the most part, everything is in the county, from the county of Colchester. There are a lot of clever people, and it's a good way of them getting some exposure. And those people that I buy from are not working on consignment, they are selling direct to me. It's there's so much talent around, it's a shame to waste it, and this way they get a reasonable return on their goods and a consistent market.
Do you think, where is your market to? Where do you sell this? Just locally or whoever comes in?
No. Well, on the retail, it's local, it's tourist, and our tourist season is year-long in that families visit, or family members visiting their relatives in Truro, they always bring them down here. We supply stores right out to Winnipeg, Ontario, Montreal, PEI, mainly in Nova Scotia. We're into New Brunswick. At this point, we're building up on the mainland, but definitely we would like to go out over to Newfoundland, or else have someone from Newfoundland approach us and carry our line over there. That sounds like a good way of doing it too. But logistics being what they are, travel and so on, it's not that easy.
Do you have any advice for people starting a small business?
For women starting their own business, I'd say the timing is crucial. You don't want to have to deal with measles and chicken pox and mumps, so probably a good time is as the children are growing up. And also I think it's essential to have family support. I know without my own family I wouldn't have got as far as I have. My husband still does woodworking pieces for me, and he helps in the store and so on. Do your homework and don't try to expect $1 million the first year. It doesn't come. It hasn't come yet here, but it's better than perhaps going out and looking for a job if you want an interesting type of job.
What is the attitude around this area for people starting a small business? Do people feel that they can't?
I think very, very good. Like any other place, a lot of them do go under very, very quickly, but that is not necessarily because they're a small business. It's mismanagement. It's essential to have hands-on management, and a lot of people that start up, they put someone else in to run it, and they don't know what's going on. But use your local government. I think this is very important. Your provincial government can be very helpful. Federal, in my particular line, no. They're too big. They couldn't care less about the small people. I know that without the province I wouldn't have bought this building. The Feds said if I wanted $500,000 I could have it. If I wanted 70,000 I couldn't. Which, with them saying that small businesses are the backbone of the country, they were not. It's all lip service, as far from my point of view. I mean, if you're in engineering, it may be different, I don't know. We get people all the time asking for jobs, and there's plenty, and of good quality people. So it hasn't been a problem at all. It hasn't been necessary to use manpower even. If they know what you're doing and they're interested in that, they'll come and knock on the door. And we have a waiting list of people who would love to work for us, but we have plenty of good ones. In fact, we haven't lost any of our outside workers or our cottage workers. They enjoy it. The wages are more than equitable. Or not wages, they're working on piecework, but the money is pretty good. We have an agent in Sydney, one in the Valley, one on the North Shore, and one for the Halifax area, and they're operated basically like a house party. The items people order are custom made for them, so if they have an oddball size of chair, it can be made up for them or whatever. And even to the point they can send their own fabric in and we'll make it up at no extra cost. I mean, our prices are good. And this is quite a good way of marketing. Actually, I may be getting out of that because I'm beginning to feel my age. I just want to relax a little. I haven't had a holiday in 7 years, with the exception of 2 quick trips after Christmas over to the UK, and that's a rest cure rather than a vacation. Get away from the telephone and what have you. But I like the manufacturing, I like the wholesaling.
Tell me a little bit about the story behind the business. You were telling me that you were getting some seasonal work and not really getting a lot of work, and you wanted to go to work for yourself. Now take it from there.
Well, it started off with man and owlie. We went up the lake in the boat and hauled some pine down like beachcombers, and I built a bedroom unit out of it. And from there I took it to a furniture store in Deer Lake. Kevin McDonald, his name is, and he was at Great Eastern Furniture in Deer Lake. And he suggested that I could do the proper work and get a business going from it. And he ran everything through the computers and made up a proposal, which I took into industrial development. And the original plan was to build furniture. And in the beginning, I thought I could do it just the job I needed to, and good enough quality to make a living at it. And we were sort of haggling over that for a couple of years before we finally come to the understanding that I would do molding to support the business and then go at furniture, sort of a part-time thing, until I became skilled enough to really get into the marketplace with it. So it was rural development suggestion and that we make molding and kiln dry lumber, and that is a product that would move more so than furniture would. And competition was great anyway in furniture, and we got going from there, and right to now it has just kept expanding into molding alone. And with the window factory coming on now, they want the stock for their windows from their dryer, and that will make it run year round from there. But we're still in the building stage, and we can't really look at being really efficient for another 2 years because we don't have the building space and don't have as much equipment as we need other than that, you know. But that's how it started anyway, and it's still going. We're still learning more than anything, you know.
All that says to me is that you don't stop doing your homework. You're all, like you said, it was a couple of years planning before you were able to do anything, and now you're still planning for 2 and 3 years.
Oh, yes. It's every day as somebody comes in with looking for something, and you sort of go from there as to if there's any money in it, whether or not you can make a profit from it, and just keep on traveling, trying to pick up a piece of equipment to do that bit of work from there. And this mill is an extension from last year. Last year we were paying sawmills to saw our stock, and we used to have to carry the logs to the mill, wait for them to saw it, and pay the sawing charge, and then truck them back again, and we still had to rework it. So last fall I was determined I was going to have my own so I could saw it the way I wanted it and when I wanted to. So this one here cost about $3,000 to install, just the mill alone. Then the bandsaw had to come in as well, and it managed for this year, but it's still not what I'm after. I want something more efficient again, but it got us through this year. You know, this $2,500 saving from last year. You know.
So all this money that you're talking about, that was something that had to be well planned as well. Every cent that you were putting into the business had to be well thought out.
Yeah, it do, because last year I had a man hired on, and he was taking home a paycheck every Friday of, I believe it was at that time was $260 clear, and I was taking $50 a week clear. So it was like a shoestring operation, and I couldn't do the work alone. And I couldn't expect them here for nothing, so that's how we managed to get through the summer. And we kept the market there, the supply going to the people who wanted it until the market ran out in the fall. And from there, then we had 6 months to plan for this year. So this year we were running from 1st of May right up till now, and we'll be going till October, just in the molding runs and with the kiln dryer. And then it'll shut down it'll slow down all winter again. So it gives me another 6 months to get everything geared up for next year.
It sounds like it's an awful lot of hard work, an awful lot of long days. Is
Well,
it worth it to you?
Now it is. For a while I didn't know if it was going to pay off, but what I looks at is every hour is something going into as an asset, you know, and eventually I expect I will own the place. It won't be tomorrow, but we're looking at a 5-year thing, maybe a few years out of that, depending on if we get at something else. And I'm open to own it in 5 years, if it's possible, but it won't work unless it goes 12 months a year. You can't pay it off. You know. Seasonal's not good enough.
You've got extensions planned, and you're planning some new extensions to your building. All that, again, is more planning and more money and more hard work.
Well, most of the extensions is not not something you really want to do. You're almost forced to do, because if you don't have the room and the space, you can't supply. And if you can't supply all the time, they don't want you to supply at all. There's anybody depending on you all the time, is they're wanting to know where the next load of wood is coming from, and if they got to go buying one load from you and then the next time go somewhere else, they're going to go the other place all the time. You know, 'cause you're competing with big people, and they've been at it a lot longer than I have, and they got more money behind them. Right now, it's just a matter of trying to keep it all together. You know, keep going that way. You know.
Sounds like kind of a good problem to have, though, that, you know, in order to keep in business, you've got to get bigger in order to...
Yeah, the only thing is that it never leaves you. Is you don't walk out of here at 5 o'clock in the evening and it's not on your mind anymore. You can be gone fishing, and you're still up. I've been on the river fast salmon fishing and planning what I'm going to do next week. And it gets you away from the place, but you're still taking it with you all the time. And I got a vacation planned now next week. We're going away for a week, and my wife's going to visit her sister, and I'm going all through the backwoods of Nova Scotia trying to find more equipment. We've struck into another market now, and that's with the Pride Association in the Industrial Park in Cornerbrook, and they want a supply of rough stock material for survey pegs and wood pallets, and I'm looking to salvage a lot of the slab stock. We're throwing out 20% of our log, and if we had the equipment, we could salvage that. So that would be a bit of extra money from the same amount of stock that you have. And instead of it going out and being burned, we're going to try to salvage it for them. And it's I can't afford the new stuff, so I'm going to look for junk and repair it. It's the only way I can do it. It's just too much money to take on at one time.
It sounds like there's a special kind of person to be an independent businessman these days. Do you think it requires something a little extra rather than working for somebody else?
I can give you that in one word: is stubbornness. That's yeah. Well, I suppose the determination to get along with it, that you want something more than 10 weeks' work a year and unemployment check. Is I'm not satisfied with it. I never was really, and this is my second business, as I told you earlier, and I wasn't content with just 8-hour day and working for someone else. I didn't see any gain in it, but you know, it'll get better after a while. It got to.
Okay, you've been in business now a couple of years. There must be rewards about being in business by yourself, or you wouldn't still be slogging away at it.
Well, the thing is, if I want a day off, I can take it off, but you pay for it on the other end. Instead of working 8 hours, you might work 14. And thing about being your own boss is that you just answer to your creditors. You don't answer to your boss. And I find that's better. And if you can get things working right, it will really reward you after a while. But I've seen a lot of people with just a job, and after 15 years, something closed up, and they were out, and they had to start over again, and they had nowhere to turn, you know. But in Cormac, the work is so small that you can't get enough work anyway, and you got to make your own. This is what I've been at, everything. I was contracting before, and I had a farm, and I worked in the woods, and now I'm settled with this, and I think this one I'm going to stick with because it's paying off more than any of the other did. I didn't have the green thumb for farming, and I just got out of it. There was no money there, and you're working 70, 80 hours a week, and you park your tractor in the fall, and you grab your power saw and go in the woods. So I didn't like that one.
If your brother-in-law were to come to you tomorrow, or one of your friends, and say, Tony boy, I'm thinking about setting up a business, any particular bit of advice you'd be able to give them?
I tell them to expect 5 years of very little reward, other than a lot of work, you know. one thing that they should do was realize, which I didn't, was that they're not going to make it overnight. It takes 2 to 3 years just to get your feet in the door and know where the market is, and if you're going to be able to compete. You lose money in the beginning, just about everybody do. The first 2 months I was operating, I spent $6,000. I sold $400 worth of stock, and I never got that back yet. It's coming, but it's just so much to go out in the beginning to get set up that you got to be prepared for a lot of sacrifice on it. It's just not there, you know. But I really wouldn't know how to advise someone, because you might tell someone to do something, and they go on your advice, and they could end up not making it. And I don't like to give that kind of advice to anyone.
I think the kind of advice about working for 5 years before you can expect some returns is probably pretty sensible advice, though. That's
Well, that one is, I paid for that one. Paid dearly. But that's the way it is for me, you know. I just kept slugging at it, and even now, I mean, it's a shoestring operation, and we're into our 2nd year now, and it will be for another 2. It'll be a shoestring operation. And one advantage we had was that we're in a location where we can get some of our own stock. We can supply ourselves. We've been cutting a bit of material, and my father's farm right here, and we cut some of the stock here, and we buy some from locals, and that keeps us going. But we can produce a little cheaper if we put in the extra time, and I'd rather not be in the woods cutting wood, but if you got to go at it, that's the only way you can do it sometimes. So.
You said you were working on a 5-year plan. Where do you see this now in 5 years? Where are you hoping to see this in 5 years? 5
years' time, I expect to see, I like for the sales to hit 6 digits. It'd be nice. But I'm looking for a very minimum of 10 months a year operation. I wouldn't worry about July and August. I like to go camping and fishing then. But for the rest of the year, I'd like to run 40 hours a week at least, and I wouldn't mind going more, but I'd like to get it in 40 hours and know that I could take a living out of it, and I could have a man hired on with me, maybe 2, because the heavy work is hard on one person. And if in 5 years I can have the buildings up that I need and the equipment that I'm after, then I can get 10 months, maybe even 12 if you're lucky, but 10 months will do, and that's enough.
In this program so far, we've had an opportunity to discuss with some business people the importance of practical education, and I guess the impact it has upon someone working with a large corporation who goes into business for themselves. Now we have with us some young people who have some academic experience, I guess, and are getting into the workforce. And on my left, I have Karen Collins, who's a researcher with our Awakening Entrepreneurial Spirit in Pasadena, a graduate of Acadia University, and also has been to a technical institute in Corner Brook. We have as well Greg Mercer, who's a business student at Memorial University and as a work term now is working as a development assistant at the Venture Center in Pasadena. And then we have Linda Foote, who's a project coordinator for the Awakening Entrepreneurial Spirit project, and as well a former educator at a post-secondary institute in Manitoba. Karen, from the perspective of formal education, you've gone through university and as well been involved in a technical institute, and now you're in the workplace. How did your formal education assist you in being prepared, or did it assist you in being prepared for the reality of the real world in the workplace?
I graduated from Acadia University with my degree in psychology in April, while at the same time I was going to a technical college in Corner Brook, because I felt that even though I had my degree, I didn't have the necessary skills to bring me into the workplace. And since I've been working, I think I've gained more knowledge than what I had at all my years at school.
Greg, you've had some work experience through your work terms in your business program at Memorial University, and you've got a fair length of time punched at a post-secondary institution. Has your educational background prepared you for the workplace, and is the workplace what you anticipated it would be when you finished and when you got out there and involved in the real world?
The real world is really It's a lot different from what I learned in university. But all the same, I think university has prepared me a lot, theory-wise. But the real world is more, I don't know, it's more practical. It's a chance to use the theory I've learned in university.
Is it more challenging than you anticipated it would be? I mean, you're out there and you've got an opportunity, both you and Karen, to work in a business environment where we're developing businesses. Have you found that to be a bit more challenging than you anticipated with, you know, being involved from an academic point of view?
Yes, I think it's a lot more challenging.
Karen, about yourself, have you found the challenges been different than what you anticipated?
Oh, definitely, because when people ask me what my degree is and I tell them psychology, they say, well, what are you doing working at the Venture Center? And I think I discovered while I was getting my degree that I wanted to do more business-oriented things, and this has given me the opportunity.
Linda, you're a former educator at a post-secondary institute where you dealt with people that had gone through high school, and do you think the system prepares young people enough for the real-world workplace, which we're finding is probably a little different than what's the perception is when you're going through school?
I guess when I was teaching, Bill, the type of students I had were a combination. I had some students that had just come out of high school, so hadn't had any exposure to the workforce at all, had come from one schooling right into another. And then I had some people who had come from a job back to school, and there were others who had been out of the workforce, probably had never worked in their lives, but were at the point in their lives, like in later years, that they wanted to do something else. So it was quite a cross-section, I guess, of people. But I think they all were similar in that from the education they were getting within the post-secondary institute, it prepared them, yes, like Greg said, with the theory and with some of the knowledge that they needed to apply in the workforce. And it always was the same when they would come back after a work term. I don't want to come back to the classroom. I like it out there better. But they all, too, said, it's different. And all of a sudden they were thrust, I think, into an environment where it's, you better rely on the skills that you've learned in school, but you've got to develop other skills as well, people skills, learning to work. It's different, completely different, and I don't think people are geared for that coming up through the school system. It's a rude awakening to some people.
In the discussions with our business people, we talked about such things as lifelong learning. We've talked about how people in this day and age probably change professions and change occupations fairly frequently, and that when you graduate, you don't necessarily stay with the area of expertise that you've studied for. Do you find, Karen, that your experience and exposure now in the business world, and you said that's what you would like to have, is some exposure to the business world, has sort of changed your focus as well, has changed the direction where you're heading to where you would now like to go?
Oh, definitely, because at university, like I said, during the last year, I would say, I decided that I liked the business program, but I didn't want to go back into a 4-year program. I wanted to get out and start working, because everybody said, wait till you hit the real world, it's so different. So since I've been at the Venture Center and been exposed to it, and especially to small business and opening your own business, it's a whole new idea.
Greg, you're a business student at Memorial University, and one of the thrusts of this program and the programs that we're doing is towards entrepreneurship, encouraging people to get involved and do things for themselves. Do you think the practical education you're getting in the workforce now is sort of enlightening you towards entrepreneurship and made you probably look towards that as a career option more so than as you were coming through the academic side of it?
Well, Bill, I've been lucky to work at the Venture Center in both my work terms. And as you know, it's geared more towards entrepreneurship. But in regards of the university training, they more or less train you to be managers, and not, they don't really give you the option to start your own business. Like I say, since I've been working at the Venture Center, I've been given that option, and I think that's the way I want to go.
Again, the message that we got from the business people is that there is need for a practical education as well, and that certainly influences the direction that you'll take. As a wrap-up, We'll start with Linda. You know, we're dealing in this program with education, with entrepreneurship, and the need for people to become more aware of opportunities around them, and how to tap those opportunities and develop a business and developing the economy for the region. Is there anything you want to leave or impart with young people who are viewing today as a suggestion or a thrust that they should take?
Not only just young people, but everyone in general, Bill, I think that for all of our viewing audience, it's got to start from the time probably a person is born, and it's a whole environment that they grow up in. If the parents have a certain attitude, that child will grow up with that attitude. Will, if it's positive towards business, be more likely to look at different options as they grow to lead them into that field, or at least to support other people in business. So it has to start there. For the people that are halfway grown now, just to think about it the way it is. Look at it as an option. I know when I went through high school and I was trying to decide, well, what am I going to do when I grow up, when I finish school? It was, and being female, it was as well. It was, well, you can be a nurse, you can be a teacher, maybe a beautician. Those were the typical options. I mean, nobody said to me, Linda, why don't you go into business for yourself? That wasn't even considered. So I guess just to keep it in mind as an option.
Greg? You've had experience both in the academic field now and in the practical field. Is there any suggestions you'd have for young people like yourself who are in an academic environment now, encouragement to them to go out and at least try a business experience? Or
well, the one point I want to make is that you do have an option. Like all through high school, it's just go to university and make a career to yourself and for yourself. And there is an option there, even though they're not told every day.
Karen, have you seen new options? Have you got a message that you want to give to people out there watching us through Atlantic Canada today?
Okay. Again, I think university is a great experience for everybody, not just academically, but socially. I know it has helped me an awful lot. And even though I have changed, I guess I've changed my mind about what I want to do since I've been out, I think it was a good learning experience in all ways.
I think it's very important, and I think we've seen both sides of the equation in this program today, where we looked at practical education. Now we're looking at the academic side and the preparation for the real world and real life. And I think the message out there is that certainly you do need a good basic education, as much as you can get, but there is practical education that can be acquired as well from experience in the work world that'll help you. The basic thrust, as I said, is in entrepreneurship. It is an option. Small business is an option. There's opportunities out there. What you have to do is get whatever form of education you need to do what you really want to do. And as you go through the educational experience, either in the academic side or in the work side, you'll find that your tastes, your attitudes, and your approach will change and grow. And certainly that's what we need in Atlantic Canada, is the growth of young people developing the economy for the region. I want to thank our group for being with us today and sharing their views, and I want to thank you for watching and participating in a program which I hope we've imparted some information to you that'll help you in making your choice for the future. Thank you.
Formal education also plays a role in small business. High schools must realize the academic importance of courses dealing with business and set up programs such as Junior Achievement for the benefit of students.
Okay, Junior Achievement basically is a national program. It's a non-profit education program dedicated to teaching young people about the fundamentals of business management and entrepreneurship. It's been in Canada since 1955, and it's only been in Newfoundland for the past 2 years. Basically, it's an in-school, after-class program called the Company Program, and basically it's made up of students, 15 to 20 students who get together to actually start up their own business. They produce a product, they sell it, and then they liquidate their business at the end of the school year. So I guess the underlying assumption is that if you go through this whole practice, this whole exercise of starting up your business under the advisorship of a counseling firm, then you will learn the fundamentals of business, you'll make your mistakes, you'll learn by doing, and then hopefully it will somehow allow a student to go out when he finishes school and probably start his own business. The only way that junior achievement can exist is because of the support it receives from the business community. What happens is junior achievement will solicit the commitment, both financial and personnel commitment, from counseling firms which offer 4 advisors in each of the functional areas of business, basically finance, marketing, personnel, and management. And they will oversee the actual operation of the Junior Achievement Mini Corporation throughout the entire 26-week program, and offer their advice and any type of help they need in those areas.
Have many students actually thought about opening up their own business? Like, is there a good ratio there?
Well, I don't have the statistics with me, but I do know that throughout the course of its development in Canada, there are a great number of people who have risen to fairly powerful and successful positions in business. In Labatt's, I know that they have at the vice presidential level, they have people who have been exposed to junior achievement when they were younger and have gone on to play a very big part in organizational life. In Newfoundland itself, I know a Labatt's person who is quite highly committed to it, was involved at his age and has gone on to promote it in a great number of ways in the schools in both Newfoundland and the rest of Canada.
Look around you. Look at what your friends are doing and take advantage of an opportunity. Your idea for a business can stem from what others around you are doing and enjoying. Schools are beginning to realize the importance of small business and the fact that today's students are tomorrow's entrepreneurs.